What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the new engine for the E46 twin turbo 1J. I am excited. Now, I know there was a bunch of you wanting me to do V8, wanting me to do something really obscure, and I understand that, and that would have been cool as well. But the thing is, millions of people have put 1Js into E46s, maybe not millions, but a lot of people have. So there is a huge, big infrastructure behind it, brackets, transmission plates, all this kind of stuff to make it easy. Now, obviously, Chase Bays have done an amazing job making this swap very easy. I'm not going down that path. You can go down that path, you can just do a Chase Bays catalog build. I'm not. I plan on doing the research and development myself. I've got my knowledge, which is pretty vast on 2Js and the Toyota world. And then I've also got my mate Kel, who has a million times more knowledge than I do on the gearboxes, the engines, all the different little intricate things that are going to go into this build. Now, this motor did not come to me like this. This motor came, it needed to be timed. Like, it was timed, but it needed a timing belt service. It needed a new harmonic balancer, or at least like swap out. The oil return lines weren't there. They got broken coming out of the car that it came out of. So I needed to replace them. I needed to do valve cover gaskets, spark plugs. It was a front sump, now it's a rear sump. So that was all bolted on, but not sealed. So I had to go through and seal that, get new gaskets for the oil pickup, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like this, not obviously, but it wasn't painted. I've done the paint because I want the engine bay in this car to be really poppy, really kind of loud. The whole theme of the car is very dark and moody, which looks really cool. I'm 50-50 about even changing the seats out because they're quite loud. I may change those to like black seats. But the idea is when you look at the car, it looks pretty discreet, and then you open the engine bay and it's crazy. So hence the reason I went with purple. It was already polished cam covers and pipes and plenum, things like that. So I thought, well, it's already polished. Let's just go down that kind of sex spec kind of look and go with that. Something a bit more fun. I know a lot of people do like the all black engine bay, but the Supra's got that. So my aim is to not rinse and repeat the Supra in a lower version. You know, I've got the 2J. I didn't want to go the 6-speed manual, apart from the fact that they're like 10 grand, because I've already got it. You know, I want to do something different. That's why we're going with the shift kitted auto. Now, I know that the twin turbos are not the best. I get it, that's fine. They will be getting changed in the future for a 3071R. I want something very, very responsive. I want these to be nice and responsive. But for now, these are good. These are good turbos. This is a good engine. It came from WTF Auto. They've been looking after it for the last 10 years in the car that it was in. So I trust them, I trust Tristan, I trust this engine, and for now, I trust the turbos. They've only ever been boosted to 14 PSI because he was the one doing that. So we're gonna run more. Not too much more, because I know they kind of die after about 18. You know, you get 18 for say 6 months and then they're gone. So we might run something like 16, but the whole aim with my E46 is to build an E46 better than an M3 for less than half the price. So we need more power. We need it to be more responsive. We need it to look cooler. We need it to sit cooler. We need it to handle cooler, all that kind of stuff. The prices I've been looking at, they're over 100 grand. This build, if I stick to budget, isn't gonna go over 30. So we're doing pretty good. Now, in today's video, we're gonna be jumping in and I'm gonna be showing you everything we did. The spark plugs, the valve cover gaskets, the oil lines, the sealing of the sump, the new ATI super damper, the timing belt service, all that fun stuff to get this motor where it's gonna be. Now, I was going to do what I did with the 2J, and that's rip apart the whole thing, redo the bottom end, etc., build it all back up, new gaskets and that kind of thing. Until I spoke to Tristan and we found this engine. I was talking to him to get some advice on VVTi versus non-VVTi. There are pros and cons for both. And it turned out that this one just came out of a car at his shop and I got it for a very nice price. I paid $3,000 for this engine. Then I paid $600 to get it shipped from Perth because it was over there. It didn't come with a loom. It didn't come with oil lines. It come with everything else. It didn't come with the coil ignition pack, if you want to call it, but I have a spare anyway from the Supra, so that's all good. Everything else it came with all the accessories, everything's good. It just needed essentially to be given a once over, a bit of a service, And that's what we're doing in this video today. So without further ado, guys, let's jump on in and get the motor from what it was, which is this, to what it is right now. So this is our new 1J for the E46 build. You would have seen it looking way prettier at the beginning of the video because we had done all of this maintenance. But what we need to do now, the engine is good. It came out of a previous build in a A80 Supra. I have all the parts apart from the new harmonic balancer. That is on its way. You guys will see that in this video. But that's on its way. We're going to do a super damper, and I will go into why we're doing a super damper in a bit. But for now, let's jump in, get these valve cover gaskets off. I'm going to do spark plugs as well. Valve cover gaskets and spark plugs. Let's start with that. That's the easy stuff. Now, you'll notice that this all looks shiny and polished. This is not how it came specifically. I mean, like, it was already polished, but I've gone through and given it a bit of an extra polish, made it look a little bit nicer already. You guys didn't need to see that. If you guys want to see me polish something, go subscribe to my OnlyFans. I'm joking, I don't actually have one. But yeah, so let's jump in, get these valve cover gaskets off, and do some spark plugs. All right, let's jump on in and get these valve covers off. So as you can see, I'm doing it quick. I'm doing it with a drill. Do not stress out. I will be torquing everything up to the correct torque specs as this motor is meant to have. I'm not going to be doing the spark plugs because they've got a crush washer. I don't specifically torque my spark plugs. I do it by feel. I'm also taking out all of the coil packs because you need to remove those to get your valve covers off. Now we're going to peel out the old gaskets and put in the new ones. The old ones were very crusty, so I'm very glad we're doing this job. It's preventive maintenance instead of just fixing it when it's broken. Now, bit of sealant in each corner because there is a 90-degree joint, and it's good to have a bit of sealant in those joints. And just like that, we're done. Get them back on, tighten them back up, and we're all good. All right, job one done. Valve cover gaskets are done. I did put a little bit of sealant in these corners because they are sharp 90-degree corners. They've done it in the past. I do it again. It's what you do. So really nice gaskets. Obviously they were OEM. I ordered the specific OEM for this. The other ones did feel a little bit brittle, so I'm very happy that I did those. Now we're going to go through and whip out all of these spark plugs and put NGK BKR6Es in them, which have a 0.8mm gap. As far as I'm aware, you want to reduce that gap if you're running higher boost, etc. But that is going to be easy when we do turn the boost up to, I don't know, what, 16? Yeah. Now let's jump over to the easiest job we're going to be doing, spark plug change out. Coil packs are already out, so we just need to whip these old ones out, throw them in the bin, slide these new BKR6E NGK spark plugs in. I always tighten them up by hand. I like to actually undo it a little bit so until you feel that thread drop in. Then I tighten them all up by hand, go through, give it a nip to crush that washer. Job done. All right, valve cover's done, spark plug's done. Let's jump over to these oil lines while we're waiting for the harmonic balancer bolt tool. Now, I can't do the final connection into here, but I can put like the adapter on, things like that. And then I'll bolt these two on once I've done the sump seal. That's fine, that's easy. But the actual kit came with no instructions. It is set for a pair of CT12As or CT20As, okay? Now, it's not that hard. It's like one big line, one smaller big line, like one long big line, one smaller big line, and two thin feed lines. So obviously this one goes to here and it gives you enough to kind of bend around the back of the exhaust, which is beautiful. And then the other big one will come here, and I think I can actually like sneak it up near this bracket here, which would be nice, and then pop that in. And then obviously the two other lines come back here. I don't know if you can see, but that's where the feed lines are there. So it's not too hard. I'm just laying it all out, making sure I've got everything, making sure, you know, dot the I's, cross the T's, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll just pull these off and install them. I just want to make sure that I've got them all the right way, because like this side, the feed line is at the back, this side, the feed line is at the front, and I'm calling it back and front just on the way I'm looking at it. So not too bad, but we'll make it work. So I'll line it all up and pull them out, and I'll show you the lines back in. All right, we're done. Now, let me bring you over and show you this kit, because it actually kind of blew my mind a little bit how well this is made. Let me show you. I'm assuming that it works just as well with the stock downpipe. We've got an aftermarket downpipe because the collector on the factory 1J's not great apparently. So they've made this sweet twin system down into a 3-inch, I think that is. So that's awesome, nice and easy for us to go with the exhaust. But this is the kit, right? This is the only way that I could see the kit fitting and fitting well. Now I did connect it all up to the sump. What I'm gonna do is just undo these two 10 mils, and then we can do the sump, and then I'll just re-bolt them back on. Like, that's real easy. There's a little gasket in there, all good. But look at this. Like, look how close that tolerance is. That's gonna fit a hose in there nicely, not touch. This feed line isn't touching anything. It's got the clearance for the wastegate here. The same with this one here. It's not touching that line, that cooler line or anything. It's like just off there. It's just off above. I'm sorry it's a little bit dark in there, but yeah. And then this one, it's got a little kink on it. So it comes down the back of the exhaust. As you can see, doesn't touch on anything. And then scoots under, sits next to the sump, nice and tidy, nice and tight up here. Then this one, and I know you're not gonna believe me, but that's not touching the block. That just up, twists in and twists up. And like, I mean, like that was touching, you know, it's missing by probably like 2 millimeters. So that was touching until I tightened, until I put the fitting onto here and did it up. As I did it up, I was like, no way that is pulling it in just perfectly. So, you know, when I was trying to like, you know, route them and go, okay, where am I putting them all? I put it there and I was like, nah, it's touching the block. I don't really like that. I don't want things rubbing. But then I was like, it's kind of the only place that it actually fits. Sure enough, you tighten it up and it's all good. So I'm very, very happy with that. Obviously, as long as it's all, you know, all sweet. I've also made sure that where we put the engine bracket is free, because obviously gonna have to put that in there as well. So I don't actually need this one, but yeah, that is all tidy. That's all clear. I don't need this one because it comes with hardware with the new brackets, but we're gonna be able to access that. So tick that bad boy off the list. I'm stoked. All right, so I can't get this bolt off, as every single person that's ever tried to get this bolt off can't do. I've contacted a mate who's gonna bring over a tool to help us. But while we are here, I thought I would talk to you guys about why I'm getting the ATI Super Damper. So I'll jump into the actual ATI Super Damper in a second, but the reason I don't want this is because this rubber seal here, after time, does perish. And on the Supra, on my NA motor, same setup, harmonic balancer, this ring completely disconnected, fell off and disappeared. Now, let's not go and make a big story and be like, all of them do that. Oh my God, the harmonic balancers are really, shut up. It happened to me. I don't want it to happen again. So I'm gonna upgrade to the best of harmonic balancers, which is ATI Super Dampers. I can see here, this rubber is already cracking and starting to perish. Now, I'm sure that if I swap this out for a new one, an OEM one, it would be fine for 100,000 Ks. And then when I come back, do another timing belt, I would do this and it would be okay. But when you're replacing, why not upgrade? So I'm gonna be upgrading. Now, let's jump on into why ATI Super Dampers are sick. All right, so the ATI Super Damper is designed to reduce engine harmonics, tension harmonics, or tensional harmonics, I think it's called. So essentially, any of the vibrations, it is going to help reduce that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Now, because of the way they are designed, they have been proven to give from 12 to 45 horsepower gain at 7,500 RPM. So, you know, that's a lot of RPM. But I think it's 12 to 30 horsepower general gain over a stock harmonic balancer, and up to 45 over a fluid damper. So very good to go with. Not going to fail like this, and you can rebuild them. So that's pretty dope as well. Now they're only a couple $100 extra. Personally, I think they're worth it. I've got one on the 2J and I love it. I'll be putting one on this. I know what this dyno through the same gearbox. So, you know, engine all the way through, drive shaft, blah, 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 blah. So from the engine through the drivetrain, etc., what we ended up at the wheels in the previous engine. I think he was running, oh, I've got to go back through the email. I've got it written down, but I want to see what the difference is for me running an ATR super damper, a shift kitted transmission, and also we'll turn the boost up. So I'd like to run a pass at 14 pounds to see what this and that kind of get out of the engine, if anything, and then crank up the boost a little bit and see how long we can make these CT12s last. So let's get this off, do the timing belt and carry on. All right, timing belt time. So nothing exciting here. Old belt out, new Gates racing belt in, all new parts, everything torqued up to spec, and I'm a happy boy. Quickly slip on the sandwich plate and a new filter. Now it's sump time. Got to take the old sump off, old oil pan. I know it looks sealed, but it's not, so we got to rip it off and clean the whole thing. All right, so we are ready to seal the sump now. There was a bit of a delay when I pulled the sump off. Okay, so I called the shop that I bought it from and they said, look, make sure you have an oil pickup gasket. They couldn't remember if they put one in, which goes right here. And they hadn't put one in, which was fine because they gave me the heads up. So I jumped online and I bought that from OEM for JDM. So he's off of eBay and he just has like all the stock of the exact OEM gaskets, O-rings, things like that, which was great. Then I pulled the sump off and I saw that this O-ring here, obviously we needed one of those. Found it on a Friday afternoon after 5 o'clock, so no one was open. Again, ordered that from him, so that's all good. Then the last thing was the oil level sender has a little O-ring as well. And I thought, well, while I'm doing all of them, let's do this as well. So I'm gonna go through, give this one final clean off with wax and grease remover, or brake parts cleaner. Then that's ready. Then I can put a little bit of goop on that O-ring and chuck it in here. Obviously, put my sealant on the sump and put that down, bolt that in, and then I can do the internal bolts and put the actual oil pan on as well. So one little last clean, and then it's time to put this on everything. Right here you can see me putting in the oil level sender with its new gasket. I'm being very, very careful with this because it's pretty delicate. Now, putting it back in, torquing it all up to spec. Then it's time to give the sump one more clean off before I cover it in sealant and slap it back on the engine. More bolts, more torque specs. Every bolt on this engine is going to be spec'd perfectly. Back in the paint booth once again. I love this place. I actually genuinely love painting things, especially when you've got a proper spray booth. Everything comes up looking brand new, looking shiny, looking sparkly. Oh, it's just so satisfying, especially on a brand new engine. Bringing it back from the dead, oof, happy man.
It's taking us so slow, if only for
that is that. That's how we got this motor to where it is. I'm very, very happy to be working with ATI for the super damper here. I got in touch with them and they sent one of these out. I was gonna buy this either way, but I reached out to them and they looked after me on price. Obviously I still paid for it because I'm not a million subscriber YouTube channel, but they looked after me because I do run one on the Supra and it's already amazing and there are huge benefits which I spoke about earlier in the video. The other couple of things that I haven't told you guys about this engine, already has 440cc injectors, so they're slightly upgraded. They're, as far as I'm aware, these are the stock ones from the 2J. From what I know, the 1J came with less, like 380s maybe, so they're up to 440s, and the turbo collector, which you guys would have seen in the video, has also been changed, which unfortunately we do have to change because it's not going to clear the steering rack in the E46, but we'll get to that later on in the build. As for now, the motor is done, it is ready. All it needs to be done is mate it up to the gearbox. And as far as the engine gearbox combo is done, it's ready to go in the car. We have a few things to work on the actual chassis before we can do that, but we'll be doing that very soon. I hope you're as excited as I am about getting this bad boy in the car. I cannot wait. I really, really cannot wait. It's gonna be so much fun and it's gonna be, it's just gonna be exciting. So, just for reference, if you've stuck around, at the beginning of the video, I did say that we want this to be better than an M3. M3 comes out with 333 horsepower. That's engine horsepower. So that's about 287 at the rears. So we need to beat 287 at the rears. And I know there's gonna be a lot of M3 lovers out there going, yeah, but if I go and get a tune, hold on a second, you're already 100 grand deep. We'll be 30. I will do an average of every M3 that is available in Australia right now. And we will touch on that later on because then we can have a fair average. I have seen some rolling in at 40 grand, right? So, you know, that maybe they're a bit rough, maybe they're a bit run down, whatever the case. Some are 120 grand. So we'll get an average, we'll get a price, and then that'll be gotta be half of this. But either way, I cannot wait for this to happen. It's gonna be so much fun. Before we end the video, I wanna take you across to the list and we will do a final cost breakdown of what this has actually cost us. All right, so jump on in for the additional costs of the motor. So the 1J, 3,600 shipped to my door. Valve cover gaskets were 86. Sump sealant, which was the high temp black sump sealant, $40. Oil lines were the Mamba oil lines, braided kit, $155. Spark plugs were 30. ATI super damper was 600. I think it'll cost you about 655, so I've saved like shipping, if that. But I'm glad that the company were trusting enough in my channel to jump on board with this build. I really appreciate that. Coil pack cover paint was 100 bucks. Sump gasket O-rings, that kind of stuff, 40 bucks from OEM for JDM on eBay. Really, really helpful, thank you for that. Gates timing belt kit was $208, and we had to get a different serpentine belt, which is another Gates belt for $55. So, more additions to the car, more expensive, but we're still gonna build this bad boy under half the price of an M3. Thank you for coming along. I'll see you guys in the next one. See you guys.